I'm Greg Hunter. Welcome to USAWatchdog.com. With us, a guy that is just fascinating. He knows about ancient aliens and Antarctica. He knows about Yellowstone National Park because he lives close by. He's doing a big film documentation project of it. This is one of his recent books. It's a book about his favorite places and what's on it. One of the quintessential geyser pools up in Yellowstone National Park, which is in the northwest corner of Wyoming. And Steve Quayle, who is coming on right now, lives in Bozeman, Montana, just across the border. And you're a bit of an expert about Yellowstone. And Steve, thank you for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.
Well, you're welcome, Greg. Since probably for the last 44 years, I've been photographing and filming Yellowstone because it's one of my favorite places. As you said, I'm about an hour to 70 minutes away, but by helicopter, I'm about 30 minutes away. And with all the hoopla about Yellowstone, I think people lose perspective. Number one, most of the experts have never been there. Number two, they're dragging out old interviews from 4 years ago, and then they're taking the current events going on in Yellowstone. Yellowstone gets 1,000 to 3,000 earthquakes a day. I personally have been there filming when there was 888 or something like that earthquakes. So the panic over Yellowstone is misplaced. I believe it's a red herring. Prior to the Banda Aceh quake that happened in Indonesia, I think it was the BBC got a hold of me and wanted to send a film team into Bozeman to interview me over Yellowstone's going to blow. I said, guys, you're in the wrong sector of the world. Get down to Indonesia. And so what is happening with Yellowstone, why I'm calling it a red herring, is because the volcanism around the world, there's probably 37 active volcanoes going off. There's earthquakes are happening all over the Ring of Fire, which is the area around the Pacific Rim. We've got situations going on in the Long Valley Caldera, which is on the border, pretty much Mammoth Mountain area between California and Nevada on its eastern border. We've got long period episodic quakes. And what's fascinating to me is that the big one that has been written about so extensively, everybody thinks it's going to be Yellowstone's going to blow. Before Yellowstone would blow, and I maintain it will not blow, you would have magma breaking through at the Norris Geyser Basin. And so I've been here enough years, actually decades, Greg, to pretty well keep my eye on it. What I look for are changes. We just filmed the entire geysers of all the different geyser basins in Yellowstone with a shot-over camera. Shot-over cameras, $500,000. You rent them because they're so expensive. But they are a total gimbal-stabilized platform for your camera. We shoot high-res 4K. We're shooting RED cameras. That's just a brand. And getting some of the most phenomenally precise photos ever taken from the air. And we flew every geyser basin. So again, having done this numerous times, I'm in the air 14 hours alone last month doing it. I've got a feel for Yellowstone. Plus, because I'm on the internet so much, people from all over the country and world, geologists, everybody talks to me and says, man, Steve, they're making so much about nothing up there. They're much ado about nothing. So the fascinating thing is that perspective. And all I'm saying is, look, I'm not a geologist. By the way, my grandfather and my dad were both geophysicists. I didn't want to do that. But the point being is that it's not just, what do scientists do? They have observation. And as far as observing over 4 decades, that does give me I would say, a multi-decade perspective. And the West Coast is so problematic because you've got the Cascadia region running up and down, and
well, hold on before you move. Before you move off to the West Coast, doesn't it go off Yellowstone? I mean, I know it goes off, the geyser goes off, but in terms of a volcanic eruption for Yellowstone, isn't it like once every 600,000 years or something?
640,000 years. But remember, there are 10,000 geyser vents. 10,000, Greg. So steam is always being let off. The only thing that the steam doesn't let off is the nonsense, if you will, the hot air over people that are saying it's going to blow, it's going to blow, it's going to blow.
And that's all overblown. I mean, they had on Zero Hedge and other places 800 earthquakes in an hour, and this looks like it's going to blow up. And you're saying, no, that's normal, and that's probably good. Is that right, to have these earthquakes?
Yeah, that is good because, even the recent earthquakes that have happened, it's true. By the way, one of the bigger earthquakes in 1959 created Quake Lake, and that was a 7.3. Some people say 7.5, and 28 people were killed in a campground. And you can still see the trees that were covered in the forest. But what we're saying is that Yellowstone has indicators that most people are unaware of. Number one, I've seen silly stuff on the internet. Someone took an Icelandic volcanic eruption and put it all over the internet that it was going to blow. That's not only dishonest, I maintain that's full-scale propaganda to keep the eyes off of the West Coast. And Greg, talk about...
And wait, hold on, I want to intercept, because in the pre-interview, a couple of things came out. Number one, in the research that you've sent out to me saying, listen, this is a good case. I mean, the LA Times is talking about that the West Coast is long, the New Madras Fault way up there north, it goes a long way, says that they're long overdue. This was in March of 17. Also, this is the LA Times. Also, that you're saying that a lot of very wealthy people live close to Yellowstone, and they're not going to put themselves in harm's way. Will you talk a little bit about those two things? Let's start with the very wealthy people who live close in proximity to Yellowstone.
Well, first of all, the Yellowstone Club, and anybody can go on their favorite search engine and check that out. It was a project developed by Tim Blixseth, and when I say you're talking the head of Google, obviously Microsoft, all of the people who are the movers and shakers, the biggest bankers, the biggest tech guys, little Hollywood's up there. So they're not going to build on, quote, an active fault that's going to erupt any time. And I tell people that, but incidentally, there have been 3 quakes, minors, 2.5s, 2.8s in the last couple days in the area of where all those guys are. Maybe God's trying to get their attention, huh? But the point being is that Yellowstone is not going to blow, and they've got one of the biggest projects underway at the Yellowstone Club right now as far as one of the biggest construction projects in the country. So, again, you don't pour that kind of money into a, quote, active volcanic concern.
And then let's go on to one of the big things that you told me about when I called you about this is California, man. I'm telling you what, you were telling me that is going to be, that's your number one possibility for something to happen. Now, will it happen next week? Will it happen next month, next year, whatever? But you're saying that if anything's going to go, it's going to be something in California, at least as far as the United States. Is that correct?
That's what I'm saying. In addition to that, there was a guy named Bernard Chouet, Chouet. Now, this is from my memory bank. I think that's his first name. With the U.S. Geological Service that absolutely had a new and pretty revolutionary way of predicting volcanoes. And he is, by the way, I don't know what his current predictions are, but he came up with what are called long-period episodic quakes as being a precursor to a major volcanic eruption. And when you're talking about Long Valley Caldera, you're talking about, in that whole area, you're talking about 2 different faults in the Central Valley, and you're talking about the ones in the Mammoth region, again, the border of eastern California and western Nevada. So what is interesting and what we're watching is the length of time in the amount of quakes and the increasing magnitude. Now, the USGS, and I'm not saying there's any endorsement from anybody over what I'm saying, but what they are doing, there's a whole lot of scientific checking of gases, checking of satellite movement of the different place and ground deformation. All this indicates that somebody is seemingly in the professional world of geology and geophysics is more concerned right now, and you can tell this, more concerned with the whole Cascadia region of the Pacific Northwest going down into the Central Valley of California. And remember this, everyone, Central Valley was an inland sea, okay? So the the width of the seawall in that area is very, very narrow. And what I think is problematic for people is, again, the red herring. It's like what I call the hypnotist amulet. They want everyone to focus on Yellowstone. And by the way, people say, you're going to blow up. Well, my enemies would love that. But I said, listen, I'll go get a lawn chair and sit there. And I promise you, you will see activity on the West Coast before I see a volcanic super eruption.
And don't you have, you were telling me in the pre-interview, you have confidential sources from the DHS, which you have vetted.
Yes, sir.
And they are saying that, this is, now we're not just talking about an earthquake, we're talking about a possibility of volcanic activity on the West Coast, in that area you're talking about. And they're saying that as many as 10 million people may be killed. They don't have enough hotels and rooms and a way to evacuate people. There's not enough hotel rooms. There's not enough houses. There's not enough space to put all these people. It's going to be a calamity. This is DHS talking, according to your source. Let's talk about that some.
Well, first of all, I know the source. I can tell you this. He is who he says he is, badges and all. He absolutely is very aware of what's going on. And I posted, and I've sent them to you, Greg, so if you want to put them up on my stevequayle.com. This isn't a pitch. I'm just telling people on my alert. There's a 2-part absolute word-for-word transcription of what he sent me, which you have seen.
I will link to that. I will put that on after the interview section. Sure. I will link to that to help you find it. You can send me the link, but I will link to that so people can read for themselves.
Yep, I think
on your site.
Yep, I think it's important. No, please put it up wherever you want. Here's the deal: we're trying to get people warned, and I think what I want to come out of this interview more than anything, I want to say this: people, you are on your own. They will not come and help you. We've got just such a problematic set of circumstances that there's nobody that can call, especially when the cell phones don't work. There's no 911. I don't think people, Greg, can even begin to fathom or wrap their heads around 3 to 10 million people possibly dying. Once again, this is according to DHS. Now, there are no official statements coming out from them, but as you read the alert, Greg, they're talking, it's not open to discussion. So the question is what information do they possess that they're basing their training and warning all their people on that the American people don't have access to? It's like, for instance, one of the greatest predictive, in my opinion, the greatest predictive tool was what Standeo.com, when he was watching the sea surface temperature anomaly maps. He started talking about that, and his accuracy, forgive me, it was when Stan said, this is the area to watch. And for the record, he was the only one to predict that Banda Aceh was going to go, the exact area it was going to go, because of all the indicators.
You're talking about Thailand.
Yep. But I'm also talking about the sea surface temperature anomaly. After that, the Navy site that would make that available, people, it shut it down. Okay, So this is critical to everybody. You're not going to be told until it's too late. And when it's too late, it's too late. So all of this concern that is being shown behind the scenes. Now, look, I have a way of vetting people.
Hold on, just a minute. I know you have a way of vetting people. Hold that thing and talk about your DHS source. Okay. Hold on there a minute. I want to come back to the carnage that's going to happen, and that you're going to be on your own. Why wouldn't they tell people? Why come up with this ruse of Yellowstone's going to blow? Of course, there's relative to Northern California, nobody's there. Right. Relative to California. Why would they come up with this ruse, this red herring, to tell you that Yellowstone's going to blow when people like you say, I've been watching this for 44 years, there's no dang way, I'm flying over it, I'm taking pictures, I'm taking readings, no way this is going to blow up, there's no signs of it blowing up, but California is. Why would they do that?
Because of the P word, panic. Again, people become so jaded that they've heard that the big one is going to happen any day, and then years go by, and outside the Northridge earthquake or some minor stuff in the Palm Desert area of California, no one takes it serious anymore. And so the criteria that when I said no one's going to come to your aid, if they won't tell you the truth and information is your first bastion of defense, then I can only submit to you that, number one, they're unable to handle the carnage, number two, they're worried about the panic, and number three, what it would do to the E word. The E word is the economy. And so the thing that they've got to do is they have to maintain that level of, what would you say, hypnosis, that's my word, that to keep everything, the markets. Now, look, this. What would happen to the insurers and the global insurers, the reinsurers like Munich Re and others, and Lloyd's of London, if something like this happens, or let's say when it happens, okay?
Poof, be gone. The derivative market would melt down. Yeah. Everything would melt down. Everything's so interconnected.
Yep. So the thing is that, and what would happen to the nuclear power plants? Now, obviously, I think the Diablo Canyon has been shut down, and some of the other ones. But again, what we're talking about is, as you and I are doing this broadcast, Fukushima, the Japanese government is getting ready to dump, 580 storage containers of some of the most poisonous and radioactive waste in the Pacific Ocean. I want to share something.
Dilution is the solution, according to them.
Yep. Yep, and there is. You're talking with plutonium, and one of the reactors in Fukushima is quite candidly, it's a breeder reactor, a plutonium breeder reactor. I'd encourage everyone to go out on their favorite search engine and look up plutonium's half-life. Greg, they have rewritten. Now, when I say they, the powers that be that don't want panic, and it's all about money in the end of the day. 3 to 5 million, even 10 million loss of life is nothing compared to, can they make that last $1 billion hedge fund deal? Can they make that last derivative? I mean, is a musical chair, do the people that know that the needle on the phonograph, obviously I'm using an old term, is wearing out and that the music stops? So the thing is that the economic ramifications, forget loss of life, nobody cares about that, and forget the ability to take care of it. There will be Showcase taking care of it. So this is why the whole mindset of preparing. If you know no one's going to come to your aid, then it forces you to take the R word. The R word's responsibility. What is it that most people shun? They shun responsibility. They want you, Greg Hunter, or me to tell them and maybe to worry them a little bit. And then so when nothing happens in their mind, see, those guys are just crazy. No, we're not.
Most people don't have. What was one of these reports that came out? It was at Bloomberg or somebody that 30 or 40% of the population doesn't have $400 for an emergency. I bet you that 40% of the population don't have a case or two of water if their water gets shut off. I mean, the people are going to go into panic. They probably don't have a week's worth of groceries if things get shut down. And all this is interconnected. I'm gonna bring you back around here to your True Legends. Your True Legends DVD that you sent me here, and it is about the Holocaust of giants. And just so you know that Steve is not way out there. Get the glare off there. Not way out there on a limb. I mean, giants are brought up in the Bible, in Genesis, talking about when giants roamed the earth in the Bible. Also, your latest book, Unearthing the Cloud Eaters, more about the revelations that we're all going to be seeing about giants that walk the earth and their technology and all this stuff that's going to be coming due. And this is one of your older books, True Legends, which you can see that that giant grabbing buffaloes over your left shoulder there. But this is the coverage for that right here. The books that you've written a lot of books on this stuff. You may or may not believe Steve Quayle, but you cannot fault his sourcing and the hard work he's put in this. How do the giants that you're talking about in your Cloud Eater book, how do they all play in?
Okay, first of all, the Cloud Eaters are the Native American terms for the giants. The Smithsonian cover-up that started in the late 1800s, the bones, the burial mounds in the central Ohio River Valley, all of giant skeletons are a matter of fact. You can go to old newspapers, etc. I have spent 4 years with film teams going around different places in the country. Timothy Alberino and myself, and we took our tour down to South America, Peru. And what was interesting, Greg, is Peru is called the navel of civilization. So the Cyclopean architecture, that's the big rocks that you can't move today. When I say big, 300 tons. Then you go to the Middle East, 1,000-ton stones. You go into Russia, 2,000-pound stones. What is this significant? Why? Because the militaries of the world are looking, ready for this, for the Jurassic giants, that they can absolutely culture the DNA from these things to put into their super soldier program. I started talking.
Wait, before people say, "Oh, that's just crazy. That would never happen." The Chinese have just, and this is out in publication. The Chinese have just, engineered a super muscular dog, and they want to have super muscular soldiers that they can clone. Just so everybody knows, that's a real time story that just broke out. That's a real story. But anyway, go ahead. The military wants to clone these massive creatures and use them for war.
Absolutely, just like AI. AI stands for artificial intelligence. The thing is, ancient technology was so far advanced. We're not talking, first of all, the Maya, Inca, and Aztecs did not claim they built that they didn't build any of their pyramids or structures, okay? The Inca, when they built Machu Picchu on top of the Cyclopean architecture, you can see the difference. You can see the different building styles. The Cyclopean architecture is stones fitted together so perfectly you can't even stick a razor blade in them. Then you
melted together.
Yeah,
melted together almost.
And also, by the way, there are Incan, Mayan, and Aztec different, if you will, stone carvings of guys looking like they're holding some kind of a flame torch, okay, or a backpack. So the technology that's there, I claim, is fallen angel technology. Fallen angel technology stands in direct opposition. Look, how did we get to where we're at from the 1880s to basically stuff that Dr. Werner von Braun and Hermann Oberth said we've got two types of technology, ours and theirs, and we had help from them. So if you were going to deceive an entire group of people that you ultimately want to destroy, you would make them think you were gods. That's a whole history of all the legends of the world. And for the record, 40 years of studying that, you can't get away from it. You can't get away from it.
And they are now. This is all the stuff that happened before the flood. And I say this all the time to people. They say, you know, that they're going to tell us all kinds of stuff. The stuff that happened before the flood. And I just want to put this in. And my backstop story is, well, 2,000 years ago, Jesus Christ was about 2,000 years, was born, died on the cross for our sins, and rose again. You know, on the third day. That is fact. And so, no matter what happened before the flood, and who knows. We know damn little about what happened before the flood. The official powers know a lot more than what they would like us to believe, but right. We know dang little about that. We do know that Christ is real, and you can always do that for your fallback position. I don't want people to think they're being misled that the Anunnaki made us and that that there's no real God and it was just all ancient alien. That's all BS. Correct?
Absolutely, and that's the sole purpose of our film company, Gen 6 Productions, out of Genesis 6. You can't get away from, even some of the guys, the church fathers in the 300 AD realm, basically claimed that Og, king of Bashan, who the Old Testament says was approximately 18 feet tall. There are people that argue, well, your bed's always longer than your feet. But anyway, Eusebius said that that King Og was the god Saturn that the Romans worship, and that he's in stasis in the British Isles. Stasis means suspended animation. I have talked to scientists, I have talked to intelligence agents on their dying bed, or somehow they show up and want to clear their conscience with me, and I said, listen, you need to be asking God for his forgiveness, but he will forgive you if you confess your sin. And some say, we've done too many things. I mean, when you got guys telling you this, and the stories are so completely alike, A doesn't know B, B doesn't know C. And what you've got to do, Greg, when you vet these sources, you've always got to keep certain bits of information to yourself so you don't get a feedback loop, okay? The genetic search for not only DNA, but also ancient technology is why most special forces, I'm not talking about just going in and taking out, quote, a clone of Osama bin Laden, well, whatever, Freudian slip there. But the point that I guess I'm trying to make is this, that you can deny it all you want, and we hear of these trillions that have disappeared.
But hold on a minute. I just want people to know what the end game is. They want to tell us that, listen, the Anunnaki made us, that there's no God the Father, that he didn't have a son, Jesus Christ, that it's really just all alien technology, and there's no God. That's what they want to tell us, and that's a big lie. Is that what you're saying?
That's what they want to tell us, but they're going to tell us even more than that. They're going to
So tell us about the big lie.
The big lie is simply this, that Lucifer is good, that God was a mean God, that he's a demiurge, D-E-M-I-U-R-G-E, and that Lucifer is going to come and he's going to give you eternal life. You can look at the Dredge report, longevity, telomeres. By the way, telomeres on the end of DNA were used to be thought to be junk DNA, okay? Now they find out it's a key to living a long time. In the Bible, Methuselah lived 969 years old. To be 969.
Noah lived 930 or something.
Yep, exactly. So
it took him 125 years to build the ark.
So what was the first lie in the Garden of Eden, according to the creation narrative? Satan tempted Eve and said, you're not to eat of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, because then you'll be as God. Well, this is what they're talking about. The billionaires, once they have all the money, and I know some of them, that once they have all the money in the world, it's not money, it's power, okay? But the thing they're scared of is death. So you can even, every day, it's singularity, men being combined with machines. It's eternal life apart from God. Look at the perversion, sex bots, sexual robots now. Look, that's obvious what that is. That's eugenics with a, I can't say that, but what it is, it's a eugenics program, and what's it going to do? There'll be no reproduction except in laboratories. I've had grown men in Bozeman, Montana, in my office weeping, and this guy, one of them, and it's a real guy, he's dead now, one of them was literally talking about being in the underground military bases with caged half humans and half animals and listening to their screams. And Greg, he wept like a baby. He was also a hitter. He was also an assassin. He showed me his before photographs and his after photographs after plastic surgery. And so that kind of stuff sticks with you. Then you see that Phil Schneider is talking about the Dulce base, and Phil was murdered, and they claimed that, he committed suicide. Everybody whose suicide is interesting. They must be beyond yoga practitioners. They must be magicians. In other words, we're seeing Murder Inc. in this country, and the truth has to be kept because they need their spin. First of all, let me make this clear. When you're dealing with fallen angels and what people call the gods of the Sumerians, that's what you're dealing with. Sex, okay? And this ought to sell. Sex is what the satanic extermination of the human race is all about, because that's what caused God to destroy the if you will, the antediluvians, those who perished in the flood. The point is that because the whole earth was corrupt, and so when it talks about Noah,
wait, hold on, yeah. and is weren't you the one that telling me that the reason why he chose Noah and his family is because they were pure genetically, not morally. Did you tell me that?
Yes, sir. And okay, and the Bible, that's a scripture. The Bible teaches that they were pure in their generation. Okay, so how about this?
So fallen angels had not.
Yeah, they haven't gotten to them yet.
Mated with them.
Yeah, and so
which is talked about also in the Bible about fallen angels. Yeah, that's all talked about in Genesis.
Yeah, but it's not just Genesis, Greg. It's the entire Old Testament. When the children of Israel came into the Promised Land, look, whether you don't believe it or not, there are references to Joshua on the islands beyond the Straits of Gibraltar, also in Tunisia, where the giants even wrote that they were fleeing from Joshua the usurper, Sardinian. This is something really critical. Our new DVD, Holocaust of Giants, is probably one of the most important, well-researched, documented facts concerning giants. And by the way, you've got James Cameron of the Titanic fame and Avatar and every Terminator already out there looking for Atlantis. He's the only private citizen that's ever gone down into the Mariana Trench. So the point that is I would say at the cusp of history is, whether you believe it or not, Jesus says men's hearts will fail them for fear of looking after those things coming upon the earth. And it's one thing when you watch it on a screen, but imagine the world's most horrible movies and the creatures coming into our, if you will, dimension. That's what CERN is all about. And that's why, no pun in words, but we have to discern the time. And you hear all these stories about CERN and human sacrifice. How could you even have
all these pedophile rings?
You got it.
Pedophile rings.
But it's not just.
Why are they going after Trump?
Yep.
Because he's arresting pedophiles. He's closing the borders. He's getting out of bad trade deals. America first. Make America great again. They don't want to make America great again. They want the world refashioned in their own form, a new world order, a Luciferian new world order. These are some evil people. That's why Trump was in the White House. And this picture is so powerful. I mean, blood is coming out of the eyes and ears of people at CNN, people I used to work with, making fun of this. They're laying hands on him, praying. I mean, that's just unbelievable.
I was one of the first guys on talk radio on Coast to Coast, which is a pretty big show, to say that George Norrie asked me if I was endorsing Trump. I said, when you see who hates him, and this was even before, remember all the mocking of everybody that Trump... Yeah. I said, if they hate him that much, obviously I am for him that much, And here's what I'm worried about. And just a political statement. I pray that somehow God in his mercy will open President Donald Trump's eyes to the true spiritual nature of this evil. It's not just the pedophiles, Greg. They are murdering these kids and cannibalizing them. That is the most horrific thing. So much so that even I think
both sides of the aisle.
Both sides. And let me share this. I maintain that the only way to explain the Democrats, okay, and the Republicans is to basically know that there's an evil force that is guiding them and directing them, because the whole world is going to go after the beast, and he has to come on the scene after a nuclear war. So when you got people wanting to go to war with Russia has some of the best civil defense in the world, some of the most sophisticated weapons technology, and the people listening to this in the intelligence community and in the military, you guys know what the truth is. The point is that
Russia's not going to be a pushover.
Yeah, Russia's not going to be a pushover.
They're not.
3 times they've stopped the Donald S. Cook. One time, people don't know, they've even taken control of one of our boomers, a nuclear submarine. The thing that is critical is understanding that the people that want to bring about a new world order have to destroy the old world order, and that makes me incredibly angry.
Is that what the whole they're blowing the debt up? I mean, you got to be an idiot to be, a Bush 43 doubled the debt under his watch. Obama, we went from, 5 trillion to, Bush went from 5 trillion to roughly, this is a rough number, 5 to 10 trillion. Obama went from 10 to 20 trillion, give or take. Now Donald Trump's talking about, he may be overseeing the biggest bankruptcy in the world, which is why they hate him. He's not going to grow the debt. He's going to say, hey, y'all made a bad investment. Sorry, we're not paying.
Right.
I mean, isn't that what we're talking about here?
Yeah, but we're also talking about the Russians and the Chinese and the Indians having very sophisticated gold-based currencies coming, okay? And the idea that China is the dynamo on this planet right now. Their teleportation, I don't know if people understand that. Teleportation's a big thing. And for most people's knowledge, even Gene Roddenberry was tied in with the CIA, and Hollywood is tied in with the CIA. So I maintain this, Greg, that they use science fiction. The Central Intelligence Agency and the intelligence of the world, use science fiction to basically dismiss the stuff they're working on. So you can say, oh, that's just science fiction.
Yeah, like Walking Dead, and also space portals, and Catherine Austin Fitts says they got a whole black budget of stuff that they're putting out of space.
She's right. By the way, she is right. She's absolutely right.
And I wanted to talk about the coming calamity. They put this off for a long time. A lot of people, well, I could have been in the stock market for the last 3 years. Long as you like playing in the pool when there's somebody's running an active hair dryer that they're getting ready to drop in. We're going to have a calamity, a financial calamity, and this is by design. Will you please explain that?
Sure. Here's the deal. If you think about debt, you think about derivatives, you think about everything that people are investing in, it's basically a piece of paper. It's in a computer. It consists of electrons. It consists of data, bits, bytes, Google, all of the different terms for computer stuff. And what is so interesting to me is everybody owes their soul, outside of those who understand what I'm talking about, and as you have spent so many of your interviews on trying to get people to realize, folks, this is all phony. If you can't touch it, you don't own it. By the way, I think I'm one of the guys that either was credited with that 25 years ago on talk radio, and that's true. What do you have if everything goes to hell? Well, what you've got is the richest people in the world getting richer. You've got the destruction of the middle class. You've got absolutely stores closing, mom-and-pop operations, even chains. And so ultimately, people have got to see this. They get us into an electronic currency, whether it's blockchain, whatever it is. They have one major source of food distribution, or Amazon, which before everyone's eyes is like a vampire squid, to quote Matt Taibbi, of Rolling Stone. And it's not just, he used to say that, applying it to Goldman Sachs. The big are getting bigger, and I tell people this, Wall Street has executed Main Street.
Do you think that we'll have a calamity this fall? I'm getting from a lot of big, important people. One big hedge fund, John Malden from Malden Research, I think, says that he's not a bear. He says probably this year, but no later than 2018. Can you handicap when the Fed or the central banks, the plug is going to be pulled or accidentally kicked out of the wall, whatever? Do you think that this fall is going to be a very rough time, or this fall of 2018? Give us a handicap. When do you think this thing might fold?
Well, I think, can I tell you this? I think we're undergoing civil war right now, and everybody's too politically correct to call BS BS as it's associated with all the lies. I see what's going on in the mainstream news is they're having a meltdown because we don't buy the lie anymore.
That's right. We don't buy the lie.
And I believe that God is using, quote, obviously I'm on the list. I was on the list. My website, stevequayle.com, Alex Jones, all the different guys that are out there and been out there the longest, but people are wising up. They're looking around. They're saying, wait, how can this be? And so I think they're going to collapse the economy. My guess is it'll start this fall, and it will really go big into the summer and then the following fall. Now, the caveat, I will say this, all bets are off if the earthquakes happen either on the New Madrid, okay, or on the West Coast in a big way. Look, if Yellowstone were to blow, and let's say this, even in a minor explosion, that's going to affect the two most least populated states in the United States.
That's right.
Wyoming,
so you're saying,
Wyoming and Montana are the two, probably followed by Idaho in there too. And so the whole thing, too, people need to understand, it's all tipping to the south, okay? Active hot springs in Yellowstone, this is what I can observe after 40 years of still photographs and 10 years of aerial photography. So it's tilting to the south. So it's going to blow basically towards the, Wyoming, if you will, southern Wyoming border down into Colorado.
And what will happen? Mad Max, if this thing goes, is that what they want? Do they want a Mad Max scenario?
Absolutely, because the word zombie, and I want to share something, probably, and I didn't write it, so this is on my website, stevequayle.com, QUAYLE.com. I have a headline thing over there, a banner on zombies. One of the finest articles ever written, this is critical, by Sue Bradley, who's now gone to be with the Lord. She was Admiral Thomas Moore, the Joint Chiefs of Staff's private research assistant, okay? And so she wrote the best thing. Here, let me tell you what zombies are. Zombies are everybody other than them. They will, meaning the elite, okay? These people are Luciferians. How is it that tech moguls go from not believing in God to all of a sudden believing in God, that they're doing God's will? Quote, I think, was from Hank Paulson. Well, how do rabid, quote, self-professed atheists all see the light? Well, they do. They see the light of deception, in my opinion. How can people be talking about vaccines being safe when people are watching their daughters die of Gardasil? And look, I'm an anti-vaxxer. I have a son who is ruined by vaccines, and I'm pissed, okay? I'm pissed at the medical profession not standing up and taking control of that. So it's all related. We are.
Well, let's come back to the Mad Max scenario, though.
Sure, it is going to be.
What does it look
like? Mad Max?
And what does that look like?
Okay, I'll give you a great example. Go and watch Kurt Russell in Escape from New York, okay, and Escape from Los Angeles. There were movies made. It's going to be Venezuela on steroids. It's going to be Argentina on steroids. But the difference is those people are all unarmed. We still have the Second Amendment. So what I see, Greg, is I see Mad Max is already happening, with this movement and that movement. And you got a bunch of, sandbox Prozac dip binky people, protesting their safe spaces, and they can't even deal in the realm or the arena of thoughts. They can't speak. They're unemployed. The student debt. Here's the thing that's going to take us down. Financially, in my opinion, accelerating student debt, unless there's a national forgiveness plan, and also automobiles. I was married into the family of the Ford dealership years ago, and now they got Ford trucks that are $100,000, and people are going out and buying them for 10 years. They don't understand one word depreciation.
It's also reflected in news articles about how many sales they've stolen in the future, and they're calling it Carmageddon that is coming. The thing. And you're the writer of the article talking about zombies. Are we all going to be zombies? Is that what she wrote about?
If they have their way with mass inoculation and with mass chemtrail spraying, and by the way, I want to put everybody into a website. Have you ever had Dane Wigington on your show?
I have. Geoengineering.org.
Yeah, he is such an amazing guy. You and I don't agree on everything, but I was the guy that brought chemtrails. This is why I'm sharing this. Look, I believe my calling for the last 25 years on talk radio and as a guest on talk radio has been to warn people. So, when you're being told 25 years ago that the headlines are going to be about cannibalism, when you're told 25 years ago that zombies are going to be a creation, and zombies, by the way, Frankenstein would be considered the first zombie, and now you're doing it on a genetic level, and ancient history tells us. Here's an Orwellian statement. He stated that those who control the past determine the future. That's why the dialogue about giants, that's why the dialogue about fallen angels, that's why the substitution of the Anunnaki, and by the way, I call them the Anunnaki. In other words, they come to planet Earth to have a good time with Earth women because they're so... Yeah, and people think that's a little bit cynical. Well, it's really cynical. But think about it. This advanced civilization has to come to Earth to procreate or introduce itself into the human genome.
And you are a just so people don't think, oh, well, he's preaching about Anunnaki, whatever. You're a big time Christian. You believe in Christ. He's Lord and Savior. I mean, am I getting that right?
Absolutely. Listen, I've been fighting this battle in the arena of ideas. I'm one of the, I guess you'd say, according to others, I'm one of the lead researchers in the world on the ancient giants, the Rephaim. Tim Alberino, who works with me, he's the director-writer of that DVD, Holocaust of Giants. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. That's been seen all over the world. And even the people that are mad at the current Pope are recognizing that the dialogue coming out of Rome, and I'm talking Catholics now, are very upset because he's undermining the tenets even of the Catholic faith.
Oh, yes, he is. He's some of the worst criticism from the Pope are coming from Catholics.
Yes, sir.
No doubt about it. And then here's your book. I just want to put this out here. We can't get everything in. What a fantastic interview, which you talked about the geothermal goings on. That's a big red herring up in Yellowstone to California to the giants and everything else. The bottom line is we're being deceived, and we don't want people deceived, correct?
Correct. And also, we got to break them of the idea that someone's going to be there to help them, okay? I believe God will help his people, and I believe the Lord is close to them who call on his name. Look, history is complete with examples of the worst cases of non-winnable battles changing by people calling on God. And see, this is a country that said they don't want anything to do with God anymore. They're happy with Lucifer. The statues of Lucifer and Satan are going out. People say, well, they're not the same person. Oh, yes, they are. The idea is simply this, that we're now seeing things in the spiritual realm that have been kept out of our realm by God's mercy. But human beings who he once gave control and dominion to the earth, they forfeited that. Lucifer usurps it. Satan means the adversary. And now you've got open Satanism, starting with, the statue in Oklahoma City, and now, invocation prayers at city council meetings. So listen, God is a God of he won't violate people's free will. Forgive me. He doesn't violate free will. But if those people want to serve the Prince of Darkness, fine. If they want to serve King Jesus, it's light versus darkness. And brother, it's getting darker and darker, Greg. You could not even imagine 300,000 emails. So I want to say something. Donald Trump needs to regain the narrative. Russia? Good night, Hillary Clinton and all her scam. How about Fast and Furious? How about all these things like I think Dave Hodges stated, that's low-hanging fruit. But somebody's keeping him. And I believe this. Here's a statement I make, and I'm afraid of what it means, but I'll make the statement. I'm praying against those closest to Trump that have been bought off, paid off, or on the other team. Those closest to you do you. That means they're the ones usually responsible for your life being taken out.
And I just wanted to close with that one last thing, because a lot of people think, oh, Satan is the god of this world. Not according to Matthew 28:18. After the resurrection, Christ told the apostles, all authority or power, King James Version, in heaven and on earth has been given to me. That doesn't mean he's going to share it. That doesn't mean you get a little bit. That doesn't mean he's going to make a deal. all power, all authority in heaven and on earth given to Christ. And with that, we're going to close that. Steve Quayle, stevequayle.com. Fascinating site, fascinating work. Here is your book that's out. Here is your DVD that's fabulous. We're talking about the Holocaust of Giants mentioned in Genesis 6, thus your company, Gen 6 Productions. Steve Quayle, thanks for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.